The industry is still predominantly London-based. I definitely considered it, but you know, I was very aware that it was going to be expensive and difficult to just move to London without a job, so I didn't.
The industry loses out on some really talented people before they can get to that sort of top level because they don't necessarily want to stay in London.
I've never had a meeting with a production company that hasn't been in London, and those trains are expensive, extremely expensive. And if you are from a working class background and you don't have access to financial resources, is it sustainable as a career?
That nature of work and people's ability to cope with it is probably the biggest reason people leave the industry.
I think it's so different when you compare it to a lot of other careers, whether that's going into teaching or nursing or legal profession. There are some very obvious steps on that ladder, whereas TV, there are no rules and everyone has a completely different journey.
First of all, you're going to be like, I don't know how to get into the industry. Secondly, you probably haven't got the financial resources to move city or to take very low paid work or unpaid work. You know, there's lots of these barriers, there's lots of these things that might make you feel like, what am I doing here? You know, I think we've all sort of felt that from time to time.
I think it's an industry of massive risk and massive reward. It's been particularly difficult to go from job to job if you're a freelancer and sort of feel financially supported, because it might be a very low paid job and you might not necessarily know how long you might work in that low paid job without the guarantee of getting into that development role.
Being invited into those casting rooms was a massive deal to me, and I was so grateful to be there that I didn't want to like do anything to deter away from that. I didn't know whether I was going to be homeless in a couple of weeks, which was a whole different debacle. But that, again, that's just the life that comes with sometimes being working class. You know, a lot of these other people weren't having to go home and think about whether they're gonna actually have a roof over their head in the next week.
If the wealth in television was spread out more equitably, the problems wouldn't be as bad. What the industry can do to make it better is give people jobs, not short-term contracts, because you can't get a mortgage on the back of short-term contracts.